In the first World Cup I remember as a kid, we had and we also had this.
Patrick Battiston raced through on Schumacher's goal. When Michel Platini played the ball through.
Yeah, it was never a booking. Definitely went for the ball. But now it's 2026 and we get this. And this. This ticket from the 1982 World Cup final shows it cost 2,000 pesetas, which was just over a tenner in sterling at the time. Taking inflation into consideration, that ticket would cost 35 quid now. I doubt this year you'll be able to park your car for that. The game has well and truly gone. But fear not, because 1982 was special for another reason. Harry Kane. Sorry, Kevin Toms. Growing up with a love of board games, that was the career for him. Seeing the school careers advisor at 15, he wasn't budging. Board games designer, please. Inspired by board games like Soccerama and a passion for football, despite being a Torquay fan, he really wanted to make a football board game that worked, that took you through the trials and tribulations of running a football team. The way football is set up though was too involved to replicate on the tabletop. He struggled but persevered with trying to get something working. Taking a turn in career choices by working as a programmer on corporate mainframes and for a while coding at the Open University, it wasn't long before he realised he could write games on these things. At some point during this time he got his hands on a programmable calculator and started mucking about with it, to the extent he managed to get a rudimentary battleship game running. By the late 70s, affordable computers were starting to appear, and this programmable calculator experience led him to the purchase of a TRS-80 clone he spotted whilst mooching about on Tottenham Court Road in London. It wasn't cheap at 325 quid then, equivalent to well over 1600 quid today, but despite his girlfriend calling it a waste of money, he took a punt knowing this could be the gateway in getting his long-lived dream of making a football game, but as a computer game, and thus starting a career not in board games, but computer ones. So Kevin got to work and created the first iteration of what would become Football Manager on the TRS-80 clone called the Video Genie. It was a real light bulb moment, a real realisation that the shackles were firmly off with this new computer game medium. Friends who play tested the game really enjoyed it, calling it addictive, which actually seemed like a good fit for a name for his new computer game business, Addictive Games. This was all well and good, but not many people owned TRS-80 computers or cheaper clones. They were still very expensive and out of reach for most families. Clive Sinclair was among the first people to change all that, first with the ZX80 and then with the much more capable ZX81, which by the time it was released could be expanded to 16K to match the memory requirements of Kevin's football game. Kevin saw the potential at such a cheap price point and got to work porting his Video Genie game to the ZX81. Working out of this flat in Milton Keynes, he paid for this advert in CMVG magazine to get the mail order business started. Although I've got to leave the advert next to it in also, as that ZX81 holder is a thing of beauty. So the new ZX80/81 16K version proved a sound business move. In the first few months of that advert going out, it sold 300 copies via mail order, 297 on the ZX81 and just 3 on the Video Genie. The premise of the game was simple: climb the leagues from Division 4 to Division 1 and win the FA Cup. There were different skill levels and lots of options involved to improve your team and chances of winning. There was a fair amount of short name teams to choose from, with each division being made up of 8 teams with random players assigned. Match highlights consisted of goal flashes with nothing else, but this was all going swimmingly for Mr. Toms. But then Uncle Clive took the affordable home computer to the next level. Yep, the 48K ZX Spectrum was born, which meant Kevin had even more memory to fill and even more money to make. 32 teams to choose from suddenly went up to 64. There was colour, loans, menu options to change team and player names, bigger leagues. Oh look, Spurs near the bottom, what a surprise. But most importantly, highlights. Yes, admittedly they were a bit shit, even by these early standards. But we didn't care. This game had more than enough to transport us kids on a journey of fantasy football. Can I take my team to FA Cup glory, or do I have to break into the code to see the cup? Kevin was onto a winner. Big retailers were now also stocking games, so a new cover was designed, with, rather cleverly, Kevin's mugshot on the front cover. People would soon recognise him at trade shows. Why didn't more publishers do the same? Now I've got to cut in at this point and say that I absolutely adored this game back in 1983 or whenever it was I played it. I distinctly remember the bragging rights in the playground if you managed to win the division or the FA Cup. What a time to be alive. It was glorious. It was also the start of a huge industry in this new genre. It's safe to say by the early 2000s I was, to use Kev's company name, massively addicted to Football Manager 2005 or whatever year it was. Would these games exist without the OG? They probably would have done eventually, but there's no denying the huge influence Kevin's original game had. Do I still play Football Manager games now? Well, no. It all got too involved for my simple tastes. All the tactics per player, conversations, individual stats, pages and pages of choices and decisions. I just want to go back to something a little simpler. And, well, the lovely people at Midnight Brew have stepped up to the plate. Yes, just in time for the It's Not Going to Be Shit Honest World Cup this year, Football Manager Revisited International Edition has been released. With Kevin on board as a consultant to help create this new version of this classic game in time for the 2026 World Cup, Glenn Anderson, creator of Football Manager Revisited, has spent the last few months updating his version of the game with Kevin's input for a brand new edition that retains the simple charm of the 1982 classic, whilst also providing the World Cup 2026 fiasco as a tournament experience that allows you to complete a campaign in under 1 hour. I should have probably taken a breath there. All 48 teams are here, with over 1,000 real players in the game. It's all fully customisable. All the tournaments are too, with tactics, training, the media and random events. But the best bit is there's none of that nasty machine code gubbins in this version. No. This is written in glorious BASIC for that true 1982 experience. So, is it any good? And can England actually win this time? Well, let's hand over to your commentators, Seb's Place, and yeah, it's just me. Good afternoon and welcome to the Corporate Greed World Cup. You could cut the atmosphere with a wooden spoon, as no actual fans could afford the ridiculously small allocation of seats provided to them. So this is Seb Place's opening game squad against Croatia, as he goes for a 4-3-3-3-3-3, with the players available to him that he's actually heard of. Since VAR ruined football, he doesn't have much of a clue who is who outside the not surprisingly not included Tottenham players after their shit show this season. How good are this Croatia side then? Well, nobody knows, as the only available England scout is ill and nobody else has ever seen them play. So they could be shit, but they could be World Cup contenders or somewhere in between, nobody knows. A balanced style of play chosen then, with a reasonable commitment asked of this opening match to make sure we get this tournament off and running in true England style. 15 minutes in then and all has happened, but here comes Croatia with a rare attack in a game of few highlights. Here comes Modric and Perisic, the only two players I know, as they're both as old as me, and wow, Pickford no chance. England defence just backed off and backed off. Surprisingly, it's 1-0. Perisic down the right flank, Pickford thinks he's going far post, but no, Modric, poorly marked, makes it 2. Oh dear. Then finally on the 30-minute mark we had an England attack. Saka drives forward, Croatian defence hasn't bothered tracking back. The 100-foot goal is wide open, surely this is in. Saka f***s it, and the square ball confuses him enough to push it wide. But never mind, here comes Kane though, showing Saka how it's done. Near post, hurry, near post for f***'s sake. England just need to hold on to this 2-0 deficit until half-time, but the Croatian boys have other thoughts. Great double save by Pickford keeps us in it, despite the attacker clearly being offside. Motivational team talk must have not happened, because England have come out again and have started in the exact same boring style as they had before. So here comes Croatia on the attack once again, and Pickford lets them have another one just because he has a love for prime numbers and wanted to see another one on the big screen. But what's this? Here comes England through another rare attack with Gordon. Keeper nowhere with a double nutmeg. What an idiot. Is the impossible possible? Maybe it is, because here comes Kane. 3-2. Come on, England. Last chance maybe to get something out the game? What the was that? A shot or a cross? And it's full time. And it's also now apparent we have two midfielders, as Anderson was sent off. A reprieve maybe for Seb trying to get something out of the game with 10 men and not actually knowing about it. With Panama beating Ghana 2-0, it's all still very much to play for. To try and get morale up for the next game, Seb organises a poker night, but Harry's cheating didn't go down well and now morale is even lower. Brilliant. So with Anderson suspended, Bellingham comes in for the game against Ghana, who on paper are weaker in every department compared to England, but do have a better team morale at least. As per usual, watching England is like pulling teeth until the half-hour mark. What the hell is he doing? 8 minutes to go. Can England get a winner? With Rodgers noticing the keeper has the sun in his eyes, he hits it. 2-1. And they hold on. It was a huge win actually, as look at the cards dished out, and yet again we only realised at the end we were down to 10 men, with Gordon being sent off. Seb was asked if the sending off was a joke, and I think it's clear nobody saw it, let alone the manager. With Croatia thumping Panama, England move up to second, with Panama to play. Surely this is a done deal, although even third place can get a look in this more teams, more money exercise. A big party is thrown, some dodgy dancing followed, with the dentist chair making a comeback, but only because Saka has a sore upper left 6. Everyone was tucked up by 9. Bless him. Rashford makes his tournament debut for Gordon, and James replaces Konza for a buoyant team whose attack is surprisingly only 1 point better than Panama's.
A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit?
5 minutes in and England are looking to stamp their authority with Rice with 3-1. Oh, lovely goal. Yet again, England sit back on their 1-0 lead just to make sure England fans stay awake long enough to see the inevitable Panama equaliser. A shake-up at half-time brings Bowen on, if only to keep Danny Dyer happy, the only England/West Ham fan that could afford the $20,000 seat price. And wow, what a screamer. If anything, this tournament has produced some stunning goals. Another fine finish by Rashford puts England out of sight, but they do let Panama score a second with 6 minutes to go, just to make it unnecessary nervy against what is essentially a shit team. But England hold on with 10 men yet again. I'm not sure any fair play awards will be on offer here. Croatia beat Ghana, meaning England finished second, which is probably worse than finishing third, as it puts us on the side of all those other teams who could actually win this thing and trounce us in the process. So we get Ecuador in the stupid round of 32, which should be a formality, although Ecuador have a better midfield than England apparently. 2 quick-fire goals before Ecuador get one back in the 89th minute, just to make sure you haven't switched off too early. But England stick it out to the last 16. Can this be their year? Well, probably not, because they get a Brazil team that, even though they've got that chicken dancing twat Richarlison up front, they are still stronger than England in everything other than defence, which we all know the Brazilians don't care about anyways. Henderson replaces the rather dive-happy Pickford, and Maduki, or whatever his name is, comes into attack. After a very cagey first half, Richarlison's desperation to do the chicken dance in front of Tottenham fans whilst he's playing for Brazil gets too much for him to bear, and he accidentally scores. England's best response is just to hit the ball at the opposition players rather than the gaping hole to the left of the keeper, and subsequently lose 1-0. Once again a valiant effort, as yet another player was red carded and we are dumped out of the World Cup and are on the first EasyJet flight back to Luton. Winners, I hear you cry? Well, apparently it was the Dutch, so go lump all your money on them. Actually, don't, as I'm not sure they are any better than us right now, but hey, you never know. So there you have it, more years of hurt for England, but a big thumbs up for this new edition. I will link it in the description, so let me know in the comments if you decide to download it and have a game with your country of choice, and let me know how you get on. Right, I'm going to leave you with the credits and a little bit of a quiz. How many of these football games did you play or can you name? I'm expecting Donut Donny to win this one. As always, thanks for watching, and hopefully I will see you all on the next one. Bye for now.